Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about the Japanese water experiment. So, if you're not familiar with this Japanese guy or whole office or whatever did all these experiments, right? So, excuse me. One of the experiments was they would play music for water and then flash freeze it. Okay? And the water that was getting played like classical music was in like beautiful crystalline shapes. All the other kinds of music made it just this weird looking thing, right? So you can look all this up. Another part of the experiment is the rice part, where he literally like talks shit to rice. He has three different rices. He ignores one. He is nice to one, and then he's mean to the other one, right? And they turn out different. And you can see a bunch of people have redone this, so you can see that a bunch, right? It's easier to do that than it is to freeze water while you're playing music. Flash freeze water, right? So I watched this a while ago and I looked into it and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty interesting. So I started thinking about the the ramifications of this, like what this really means, right? So I started doing my own experiment. Now I've been a fan of music forever. Like I think I've made entire videos on like all the music I've listened to. So basically at this point in my life, I listen to everything, right? But currently, for the past 4 or 5 months, I've just exclusively been listening to classical music, right? And Pandora Music Service, I'd like to just fucking say fuck you for your bullshit app that when I go out of fucking cell range, it switches my motherfucking station to my other stations, right? Which I have death metal, rock, rap, hip hop, fucking a couple different hip hop ones, right? So it switches it off my fucking classical and it's like, fuck, you sitting there listening to classical music, and then all of a sudden I got something screaming at me. And it's like, fuck you, Pandora. I mean, seriously? Fucking garbage. I pay for this shit. Anyway, back to the story. So, for several months now, I've been like 4, 5, 6 maybe, I don't know, right? And the strangest thing that's happening is the song. You know how you get songs stuck in your head, right? The songs stuck in my head are from my childhood. Basically, songs before I ever heard music or bought music or really, my parents weren't, my mom wasn't into music at all. My dad was into like Barry Manilow, I think, or jazz singer. Who's the jazz singer? Jazz singer. Yeah, that guy. I don't know who it is. Barry Manilow? Not Barry Manilow. Anyway, my dad had a favorite song. So I had a little bit of music. So that's what's just like, so like nursery rhymes and like the Pledge of Allegiance and like just like everything from when I was a kid. And it's so fucking bizarre, right? So I started thinking about this, right? And it reminded me of one of these tenets of what's that shit called? Dianetics. Okay, so I read this book, Dianetics. The book that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, the science, they did a bunch of science and wrote this book. And then he fucking turned it into a religion. Yeah, if you want to fuck something up, right? And I've got a whole opinion on why he did that, right? Because I think he basically figured out how to cure like all mental illness, right? I mean, that's what the fucking science in the book says. So unless the book's lying, they figured it out, right? And it's a complicated thing that goes. I mean, I don't need to. I'm not. I can't explain. I mean, I guess I have to explain a little bit to people. So basically, what Dianetics says is like you get these little hang-ups in your brain from incidences of when you're unconscious and something is said to you while you're unconscious, and literally they refer to like before you're even born as well. Like so hypothetically, we'll just you're born, right, and you're whatever, and you like get knocked out or something, like playing sports or something, and then somebody says something to the effect of like, oh, he'll never learn to catch the ball or something like this, right? Okay, so your knocked out brain is an idiot brain. So when you're knocked out, you're still aware. Your other brain, your knocked out brain, right? And I'm not the best explainer. But basically there's like your conscious brain and your unconscious brain. Literally in everybody's head, okay? So it's according to Dianetics, right? So then the unconscious brain, like so when you're knocked out or maybe even sleeping, or it's been a while since I read the book. So that if something is said, then your unconscious brain takes it like literally. And it can create like a hang up in your brain. And these hang ups can kind of get hung up on each other and just create, like mental illness, I guess, what they're trying to think. But I mean, you could have these little, and they call them like engrams, I think. So you could have these engrams and not be like, crazy or, whatever, but you could have like hypothetically like a learning disability, right? So like you got knocked out in sports or something and somebody says something to the fact of you won't learn or you can't learn or something like that. I'm just using this as an example. That gets into your head, and then your unconscious brain takes that literally and somehow makes that your fucking reality. Okay? So that's the whole basis of Dianetics, right? So then Dianetics goes in and says, okay, we can undo these engrams with basically like hypnosis is the thing, right? But they like the hypnosis is like you're supposed to like do it with like your wife or something or brother or whatever, right? Because it's like a decentralized thing. It's not like some one person gets to learn how to do this. No, I mean, I think the book teaches you how to do it, right? It's not like complicated. It's like listening or something. I mean, it's not. And people can literally work these things out by going back through their life in the appropriate timeline and remembering things, right? So, I mean, it's very fascinating. Fascinating shit. So now I'm thinking that, and I'm thinking about this in relationship to this Japanese water experiment. Like why would these songs, all from like before I really, maybe I had a radio in my room or something like that, but like, yeah, it's just that. So that made me think like by stopping listening to just all this other music, because in this Japanese water theory, I mean it's scrambling the water, right? So if and your body is like 80 or 70% water, some shit, right? So if you're constantly, like I've been my entire life, bombarding myself with these things that's disrupting my water, making it all blah, when you could play classical music, and then that would make your water all like in perfect crystalline form and happy and stuff. This is just whatever theory that I'm, applying to this myself, right? Because they haven't done any tests like other than just talking shit to the rice, you know. I mean, but really, when you say, I mean, just do an experiment. Walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, you fucking piece of shit," and see what the reaction is. And then go up to somebody else and say, "Hi, you're very pretty." See what the reaction is. You probably will get a different reaction from those things, right? Words. So I don't know what I couldn't sit here and say, well, I feel so much better now that I'm listening to classical music. I can't really say that. I mean, I'm still pissed off when I'm pissed off, and I'm still happy when I'm happy. But one thing the classical music doesn't really do is it doesn't give me those moments of like, yeah, you know, when a good whatever, like I like literally all kinds of music, like fucking some country music to some fucking gangster rap to fucking death metal. I mean, literally, I've listened to it all and I've enjoyed some out of all. Like, some music. And I think the common denominator is how much emotion went into the song, right? Like, I don't like any fucking like Backstreet Boys or Spice Girls or any of that kind of shit. Haven't listened to much though, so that's like pop, I guess. But then on the same thing, like I could listen to Blondie, which Blondie was pop in the '70s. Okay, so pop was a little same. So and these fake bands that are just put together and then handed the music and then choreography and all that. I don't know how much emotion's going into that. That might be why I don't like it. And I music is very powerful. I mean, there's literally ancient writings about different musical. I'm not a music person, so I'm gonna fuck this up. But the chords or something like that, right? And like literally since thousand plus years or something, like this shit's all been outlined. Like this chord is this, and I mean some of it's aligned with religious beliefs, like, oh, this chord's like the devil's chord, and that's probably like the whole White Zombie albums, that makes it so fucking groovy, whatever. So yeah, music is most definitely powerful. And then it's like, what state of mind is music able to put you into, right? I mean, I listened to this fucking what was it? It was a Fortnite concert with Marshmello. Oh, and I honestly felt like there was some kind of mind control shit going on, because the lyrics in the song, if you think about it from the Dianetics perspective, like if a song is able to kind of tap into that unconscious brain, right? Like being knocked out or like being asleep, then some music can do the same thing. Maybe I'm just hypothesizing, right? Then whatever message is in that fucking music is going right in there, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I will update you as the experiment continues. I kind of like classical music. I'm kind of I don't know all the different names and stuff, but the one that I kind of like is like what they would play, I guess, in like a medieval times, like medieval music, which was classical, I guess, but some that has like all the different stuff going on, I can just envision, the people playing it from movies and stuff, and it was like, yeah, it's very hip, and it's got a lot of talent and a lot of emotion in it as well. Probably because they're like, oh, fucking player, this guy's gonna chop our heads. That's when that shit was written, back when savagery was the fucking way. So, anyway, I digress. Yeah, I would, if I was you, I'd look up these I'd look up the the Japanese water experiment, and possibly even look into Dianetics. That's that's a lot. That's a whole entire book, right? So, and it's dry as fuck. Science, like, yeah. Anyway, peace.